Hi everyone, happy Tip Tuesday. I'm going to talk today a little bit about anxiety. Anxiety is something that I deal with on a regular basis. It's something that I've kind of started to open up about more and share with my friends. I've shared it on Instagram because I feel like the stigma that goes along with people who struggle with disorders like anxiety, depression, that needs to go away, and people need to be able to open up a little bit more about the issues that they're dealing with, because other people who might be afraid to talk about it or might be afraid to seek help can feel a lot of comfort in knowing that other people are dealing with the same thing. And so today I'm just going to offer some tips on how I deal with my anxiety on an everyday basis. So I started recently I started a couple months ago going to therapy, and it was something that I really didn't want to do. It was something that took me a really long time to finally reach out to someone and be like, okay, I really need help now. And it took getting to the point where it was like, I couldn't leave my house. My friends would invite me to do stuff and I'd make up excuses like, oh, I'm just too tired. Oh, I don't feel good. I have too much to do, and I wouldn't go. I would just sit in my room by myself watching TV because I was afraid of what might happen if I went. And a lot of my anxiety has been really unreasonable. Like, what am I even worried about? Sometimes I don't even know. Sometimes I just get that icky feeling in my stomach, like I kind of want to throw up, but I don't know what it is that's making me anxious. So that was one thing that I really worked on this year in therapy. We talked about how to identify my triggers. So what I kind of did was I went through my life and I mapped out all of the events that have happened in my life, like the good things and the bad things. And then I would write how I felt about it at the time and what I was thinking about it at the time. And then at the end, I was able to find all these patterns like, oh, this has happened over and over and over again with a bad outcome over and over and over again. So of course, when that comes up again, I'm gonna get anxiety over it. So that really helped me to kind of understand like my limits. So one thing that gives me anxiety is drinking. Over and over in my life, I've had incidents where people around me were drinking alcohol and cops would end up showing up. People were arrested. Just bad things happened, physical altercations, stuff like that, from the time that I was a really little kid. So when I was writing out my map of my life and I was like, oh my gosh, every single time someone has been drinking around me, something bad has happened that I remember. I don't remember any good things happening from drinking. So now when my friends or people around me bring alcohol out, it gives me anxiety. And that was something that took me a lot of time to kind of understand. I was like, when I was with my group of friends, I was just like, why am I feeling so gross? Why do I feel sick about being here? I don't even know. I know I'm anxious, but I don't know what's making me anxious. And it kind of took looking at the pattern in my past to kind of understand that, oh, I'm nervous because they have alcohol out. I'm nervous because I don't want somebody to drive away and get hurt. I don't want somebody to drive away and get pulled over, get arrested. And so that made me anxious. And I just wanted to kind of be in control of the situation, and it made me sick to my stomach that something bad could potentially happen and there was really nothing that I could do about it. So that was kind of how I learned a little bit more about what triggered my anxiety, but then that didn't really help to manage it. Knowing why I was anxious definitely was a big step in the right direction, but then when I was anxious, what was I supposed to do? So from therapy, I learned that 2 questions that you should ask yourself when you're feeling anxious are, is this reasonable and is this helpful? Maybe in the other order. So for example, with my drinking anxiety, if I was in a group of people and I started thinking, oh my gosh, somebody's gonna get hurt, oh my gosh, somebody's gonna get arrested, the cops are gonna show up, blah, 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 over like just snowballing these negative ideas, my first question, is this reasonable? Okay, so could somebody get hurt? Yes. But will they? There's a possibility that they won't. Could somebody get arrested? They could, but they probably won't, especially because everyone's keys are in the pile and everyone's staying here. No, nothing bad's gonna happen. So that kind of like shoots down that aspect of it. And then even though there's that little teeny bit of belief in my head that, yeah, even though it's not probable, it's still possible, I would think of my second question, is this helpful? So is it helping me to think of all the bad things that could happen? Of course it's not. So that kind of like helps me to shut down that thinking. I'm like, this isn't helping anybody. Me worrying about this isn't gonna stop anything from happening. So yeah, that kind of helps me to manage that anxiety a little bit better and kind of understand when I'm thinking of something that's kind of ridiculous or giving me anxiety, I can kind of shoot it down. So to kind of sum it up for you, my 3 tips for dealing with anxiety would be to first map out your life, just the things that have happened, good or bad, and then just do columns. So the first column is the event, the second column is your thought, and the third column is how you felt at the time, and look for patterns. If you were feeling something over and over again, thinking something over and over again, if something happened repeatedly, just kind of notice those things and be aware. It can really help you to identify what's making you be anxious. And then my second tip would be to ask yourself when you're feeling anxious, is this reasonable? Is this something that could happen? Is this something that would often happen? Is this something that I really need to be worried about? And then third, ask yourself, is this helpful? Is thinking this thought over and over again gonna benefit me or the people around me in any way, or is it just gonna bring me down? A lot of anxiety is about negative thinking. It starts with one negative thought and it just snowballs until you just can't control it anymore, and it's a big ball of negativity. So definitely just try to work on thinking more positively, and I know it's easier said than done because I used to be like the most negative person ever. I don't think I knew anybody who is more negative than me, and now it's just so much easier to see the positive side of things now that I've started working on managing my anxiety, and I hope that with the tips I've given you today, you can start to do the same. Thank you for listening. Happy Tip Tuesday.